Have you ever heard that poor people use debit cards and rich people use credit cards? Or on the other side, we got Mark Cuban who says, if you use your credit cards, you do not want to be rich. So which is it? Which is the right answer? You use the debit cards or credit cards?
Which one?
Well, that's what we're going to dive into right now.
If you use your credit cards, you do not want to be rich.
Well, anytime you say something about debt, people send it to me. Look
Right,
what Cuban,
I know.
look what Cuban said.
Tweets, yeah.
Look at what Cuban
and
said.
Vice versa.
Yeah, so cut up your credit cards. If you use a credit card, you don't want to be rich.
Yep,
I like that line. That's a good line.
That's my favorite line. I tell it people all the time. People then they ask me, well, where's the best place to invest? I said, your best place to invest is to pay off all your credit cards and burn them, because your credit card, you know what your return is, right? If you get off, you're paying 15, 20% interest. If you pay that down, you just earn 15 or 20%.
Folks, I've told you 100 times, and Forbes 400 wealthiest people in North America, when surveyed, asked what's the way to build wealth, what's the number one way to build wealth. 75% of wealthy people, not your broke brother-in-law with an opinion, but wealthy people say get out of debt and stay out of debt.
Yep.
Because it gives you power over your largest wealth-building tool, which is your income.
So we got that one opinion from Mark Cuban and Dave Ramsey, who all said, you don't want to be rich, don't use your credit cards, right? Credit cards, always bad. Forbes 400 richest people in the world said, don't you dare get into debt. You get out of debt, stay out of debt, right? Okay.
So I saw something the other day that said, poor people use debit cards, rich people use credit cards. I don't have any credit cards. Should I?
So here's the thing. People get credit cards for mainly one reason. So they can buy crap they don't have the money to buy.
Right.
And then they justify it going, well, I need to build my credit. That's what they say. Because that's what rich people do. Rich people build their credit. Bull crap. All the rich people that we interview say they get out of debt and stay out of debt. And that's how they got rich. They don't pay payments all the time. Because, see, there's only one way to build your credit, go in debt, right?
Right.
Why? So you can build your credit. Why? So I can go into debt. Why? So I can build my credit. Why? So I can go into debt. Why? So I can build my credit. It's a dog chasing its tail. It's called the Great FICO Scam.
Welcome back to Money Ripples. I'm Chris Miles, where we talk about how to create passive income in your life to have freedom today. So we are talking about credit cards, debit cards, debt. Are they a good thing? Are they not? Do rich people really get wealthy from using credit cards? Or is that a lie? So I really want to get into that right now. Now, we definitely know Dave Ramsey's perspective. It is no secret. Credit cards always bad. In fact, even the use of credit, in his opinion, is bad, right? It's 100% simple. And simple is great, but is it really the right answer? And what is this whole debit card thing? Does that really matter either? Is that a factor? I'm just going to say this. The debit card thing doesn't mean squat, right? Rich people use debit cards just like poor people do. That's a fallacy. I think the context behind it is you're saying that poor people use debit cards, rich people use credit cards, because there are some people that are richer that actually do that. Now, here's one thing. He throws out a statistic that says all wealthy people don't have credit card debt. That's true. I actually believe that's pretty much true, that they don't have credit card debt. It doesn't mean that they didn't use credit cards on their way to that path of wealth, okay? That's the one difference. See, to ask a rich person, someone who has enough money coming in that they don't know what to do with, what are they gonna do? Pay off their debt. I remember in 2020, my wife and I, we had that same conversation. We said, hey, we got these low 3% interest on our car loans. We could pay them off right now. Do we pay them off or not? Now I knew I can go and I can invest and make a lot more than 3%. But we're just like, you know what? It's not that much money. And it saves us one more bill to not have to pay. Pay it off. That's not even a first world problem. That's like a hashtag super first world problem, right? Because the truth is we had enough money. They're like, well, we got extra cash to burn. What do we do with it? Great. We'll just pay off these loans, right? We just pay off these debts and that's it. The only debt we'd like to keep is like our mortgage, and that's pretty much it. Now, does that mean that credit card use is bad? In most cases, and I'm going to agree with Dave Ramsey on this, is that most cases people are getting credit cards to buy crap, right? They're buying stuff. So that's true. But the other side of it is this, is that there are people that are wise with their money, people even like me that have credit cards, and we use them like crazy, especially when we can keep paying them off. And yes, it does build credit. And yes, credit is important beyond just getting more debt. Despite what Dave Ramsey says, credit scores are also involved in getting lower insurance costs on your auto and your homeowner's insurance. Yes, credit score has an impact on that. If you don't have a credit score, that's a big deal. But also, it's good to have options. It's good to know that in case something does happen, it's good to have a lot of cash, right? But I also know that there's times and seasons where having debt makes sense. That I don't want to spend my hard-earned cash putting all that money down on a house that keeps appreciating and chasing after me. So I'm chasing after trying to save up money while trying to chase to buy a house. One of the best things you can do is get a fixed rate mortgage on it, lock that price in, lock the debt, and then you can pay it down and you can catch up much faster as your dollars become worth less and less and inflation is going rampant. In fact, in an inflationary market, debt is actually awesome. You could actually be paying negative interest rates with debt versus positive. But again, I get where Dave Ramsey comes from and even where Mark Cuban's coming from. Remember, the people they're talking to on that show, the Ramsey show, they're talking to broke people. They're talking to people that don't have control. They're not wise stewards of the money. They might not even know what to do with money in the first place. And so the best advice to give the general audience is to tell them, avoid debt. That's what they tell them. But does that mean that it's always the case? That's for everybody? The answer is no. And I think even Mark Cuban would agree with that if he was talking to the right people. Again, people that are wise with their money. These are people that usually do save money, but these are people that also know how to wisely invest. They don't go gamble in markets. They don't go buy Bitcoin and other crypto and things like that. That's not what they're using credit cards for. When I use credit cards, I use it to get all my Sky Miles and things like that allows me to get free stuff. Okay? And they'll say, yeah, but you paid interest. Well, not if you pay it off every month. Well, you paid a fee. Yeah, but that fee is a lot tinier than the amount of money that I was able to make. The fact I can have free flights for my family and things like that because I spend that money on credit cards works great. Let me give you another example where it works. I've had people on my own podcast, the Money Ripples podcast, which you guys can check out on this channel. I've had people on my podcast that have actually said, I bought my first real estate property with a credit card. I'm going to put a caveat to this. This is normally a bad idea. And in today's environment, it's not a great idea either. But they said, I bought a property with my credit card. They were able to get cash to use that to buy the property. And then they were able to turn around and sell it, flip it for a profit, not only paying off their credit card, but then they got extra cash out of it too, because they were able to borrow money. You could do this by getting a bank loan with a better interest rate than a credit card. I do agree. If you're going to do something like that, be wiser with it. You can get other lines of credit. They'll admit they bought their first deals using a credit card, and now they're worth tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, like Dave Ramsey is. Now, Dave Ramsey, was he irresponsible when he had debt? Yes. That's why he hates it, because he got himself in a world of trouble by gambling with his money. He was even doing real estate, but he was doing a very high risk. He was doing flipping, and he was in his 20s. Banks don't trust 20-year-olds, okay? They do trust people that do have a great relationship with the bank and the people that also have cash on the side. He didn't have that. So when people try to give you this all or nothing advice, remember, there's always a bigger story. There's always more behind it than what they're telling you. Even in my situation, again, using credit cards, I've used them irresponsibly and I've used them responsibly. There's a difference. It's always back to who you are as that person. Now, if you're using it to consume and buy crap, not my recommendation. If you're going to use debt, use it to buy real assets that are tangible, that tend to appreciate, and that are going to work in your favor. Now, you could use a credit card in business, but again, I warn you, be very careful. Make sure that whatever you're using it for is actually going to something that produces a bigger return than what it's making you. And the reason that Dave Ramsey won't say this, and even Mark Cuban won't say this, again, is because it's such a fine line. There's such a few people that can do this. But I don't want you to ever believe it's all or nothing, because that's where people get caught in a trap and they block that creative side of their brain that could actually be the very answer to helping them break free financially. Does that make sense? So again, I'm putting warnings all over this, warning labels everywhere. Putting warning labels on this, making sure that you don't just get debt irresponsibly. If you're going to use it, make sure you're using it for things that you know are going to be secure. That's calculated risks that you know you can take, and or you've got the cash to be able to pay for it in case it doesn't go well. That's the key to making debt work in your favor. Let me give you another example. I had a friend who actually has $25 million of mortgages and debt that he used to buy $42 million of real estate. You want to learn more about that? Check out what Dave Ramsey said about my friend who ripped on him. Check that out right now. So are credit cards the real secret to getting rich? That's the one thing that everybody wonders. Like, you got Dave Ramsey's and Mark Cuban saying credit cards, that's dumb, don't ever use it, right? But what about the flip side, where I've got people on my podcast have said, I use credit cards to buy my first real estate property, and I was able to make tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. Here's the truth, guys. For the most part, I agree with Dave Ramsey and Mark Cuban. Don't use credit cards, especially just for dumb things, for consumption and things like that. Credit cards are not meant for that, and they are high risk. But for those few people that are wise stewards and can be wise stewards of money, whether it be in their business or with investing in real assets, credit cards, or even just using loans in general, can be a great way to build their wealth if they can use it responsibly and if they've got other cash reserves to be able to help pay it off in case something goes wrong. That's the real secret to using credit cards in your favor.